Okay, all jazz, and particularly bebop, is rooted in the blues. The blues is, and it's inextricably linked to all forms of jazz. And I think when you're playing in an organ trio, it gives you an excuse, or I should say, it gives you an opportunity to play in a lot more traditional blues settings because it's so soulful, it's so gritty and greasy and wonderful that you can play something that maybe you wouldn't even want to play in a straight-ahead ensemble featuring piano, bass, and drums and some horns. And one of those is just a real traditional kind of backbeat Texas shuffle. And what I mean by that is just this kind of a vibe. So just kind of keep those, eighth notes chugging along with that feel, and it's almost a little bit of a, a Charleston kind of vibe, but it's a real great shuffle. And this is a feel that Freddie King and Jimmy Vaughan, Albert King, all the great Texas blues players play over this a lot. But it's also a feel that organ trios that explore. Grant Green played over this type of vibe a lot, and it's really it's a nice new avenue to explore. So we have this recurring theme of like, okay, we've got all this blues. How can we mix up the blues within our organ trio set? So here's another way. This particular solo has 3 choruses, and each chorus has a break right on the one, and that's an opportunity for you to take a little spotlight there. So if we're going to just dive into the top of this solo, we're just going to lay it right down with this break. It's almost like you're telling somebody to do something there. It's a real definitive, strong statement. And the notice, the first measure there is just kind of replicating the Charleston. We have on the beat and then off the beat on the and of beat 2. So we've got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. That's essentially, that's the core of the Charleston. That's the essence of the Charleston rhythm, that whole. That kind of a thing. So why not replicate that with our lead lines? That's exactly what we're going to do there. And then repeat that. Okay, now if we look over to the 4th bar there, this is another, kind of a unique way of getting to the turnaround of the 4. Now remember, we can, with organ trio stuff, we can keep it solidly blues, but we can also mix in some bebop and some even some modern vocabulary in there. So what we're going to do is basically emphasize an E triad over the G, which gives it kind of a G13 flat 9 sound. And that's outlined with this arpeggio. Okay, so this is a way of kind of keeping one foot firmly in the blues and another foot a little bit more adventurous harmonically and melodically. You can integrate some bebop lines and even some modern lines. So that's what's going on here. But notice, as soon as we play that line, we're going to bring it right back in measure 5 there, and we're going to replicate that same rhythm that we did in measure 1, the Charleston rhythm. So if we just isolated measures 1 and then measure 5, measure 1 is this. And measure 5 is this. So it's basically the same thing, just ending on the 4 instead of the flat 3. So we're staying true to this theme of phrasing our instrumental solo like a vocalist would sing the blues. And in a blues, in the second line, as you know, they repeat the lyric in the first line. So we can do that as a soloist as well. Okay, and then looking at the bar after that, measure 6, we have. We can add a little flavor by doing some chromatic sidestepping, and we're just approaching the G7 that comes right after that bar by a half step below. So we have this. So again, we are playing jazz, so it's important to feel free and play lots of different colors that you want and superimpose different chords over that. That's totally cool. It's fine to do that. Whatever you're hearing and whatever you're feeling. So throughout this solo, I think maybe what separates this from sounding like Jimmy Vaughan or maybe more of a traditional Texas guitarist is that we are employing some of these harmonic and different substitution devices, which I really like. It adds a nice little flavor to it. All right, so if we keep moving on, the turnaround of the the song, we have 2 bars of 3/4. So that's a little something that can change it up a little bit. It makes you think on your feet because all of a sudden you have to count, in 3 for those 2 bars before you go back home. So each of those phrases in 3 are, essentially outlining chord tones. And then we take it back home for the last 2 bars of this chorus of blues, real inside for the G13. Real common, kind of like blues box lick. Then we take it outside for our next break. So the break is an opportunity for you to have the spotlight. So you might want to do something real traditional and down home, like in the same way that we opened this song up with, or maybe take it out a little bit. Now this one takes it out. So what we're doing is playing triads in tritones, the interval of a tritone. So if we're doing G, a tritone away from that would be D flat. It's the same, a tritone is a flat 5. So we have G, D flat, G, D flat. Those are tritones. And they sound bluesy. I mean, it sounds like the blues because they're, flat 5s. So what we can do is play major triads on each of those roots. So we have G major triad, and then a D flat major triad, and then G, D flat, and then G again. You can just keep on going. And it actually lays really nicely on the fretboard because you can kind of, keep the same fingering going. So that's definitely a head turner. Whether that's a good or bad thing, you can be the judge, but I like it. It's like adding a little 20th century classical music to Stevie Ray Vaughan or something. And then we're going to continue that theme with the second bar of our second chorus by doing something we've done earlier, which is taking major triads and playing those in minor thirds. So we have over C7, we have this line. So using that half-whole diminished scale, but not playing it as a scale, we're actually, mixing it up into major triads. So what we have is we're starting off in G, and then we play an E triad, a D flat triad, a B flat triad, and then finally home to G. And the line is E, D flat, B flat, and then home to G. So if you played it on the same string set, it's a little easier to see. We have E, D flat, B flat, and then G. So that's kind of a nice sound that really is at home in blues. And then we're going to continue that by approaching the 4 chord with another half-whole diminished scale. So over the D minor 7 to G7, we're going to just play a G half-whole diminished scale. And then, it's been kind of outside for a few bars now, so let's just, kind of rein it in a little bit and just play those guide tones, the 3rd and flat 7 of the C7 chord with a little rhythmic idea. So we're going down, then go up, and then back down again. So we've got a motive there, and yet we're still kind of hanging on to this tritone theme that we started off the second chorus with. So there's always a theme there that we can tap into. The next few lines are just chord tones, and then we move into our turnaround, again, those 2 bars of 3, and then we'll take it home. And then for our next break here, this is our last break of this solo, let's just do something simple rhythmically, so we'll just play quarter notes on beats 2, 3, and 4, but let's just add some body to it by adding some double stops. So these are just real great, double stops we have over G. We're thinking in G for all of these breaks, by the way. So over G, we have a flat 3rd and a 6. Which is a real a common Western swing sound, an early big band swing, kind of a Kansas City thing, by playing the flat 3rd and then harmonizing that flat 3rd with the 6 above it. So now we'd have something like this. Or you can have the flat 3rd on top and the 6 below it, like this. We hear that in traditional Texas blues too, that whole. So that's a real great way to add some vibe to your solo. So we have the flat 3rd and the 6, and then we're going into just another little double stop line out of the G scale. We're hammering into an A and with a C on top of that. And then back into the same thing, the 6th and the flat 3rd, although they flip-flopped, so now the flat 3rd is on top and the 6 is below it. So all it is that second note there on beat 3, that second double stop, that's just a link from going from here to here. And we're just in the middle of it, we can go here. We could go anywhere. We could go here, we could go here, but it's just basically like a bridge that connects those two large skips there. So we've got... And then we do the same thing that we did in the previous chorus where we dance around that G7 tonic chord by going a half step below that. So that's kind of cool. We're outlining F#7 chords. And that's something that you'll hear organists do a lot of times when they're comping. They'll just basically chromatically approach the target chord, which in this case is G. You can either go a half step below or a half step above. But it's really nice to do a half step below, especially over that G. And then C, C sharp, G. And you know, that's something that, again, takes it away from just a straight traditional Texas blues. It's kind of nice. Then we're going to go back to straight blues. And then when we get to the next C sharp diminished chord, we're just going to harmonize that with these movable patterns. These. And then we're going to go into a G9 chord here. And then our last turnaround, over again, 2 measures of 3/4, we're just going to hold it together. We're just kind of glue it together by keeping a consistent triplet rhythm. But again, if we keep the rhythm consistent, we can do different things. We can do different patterns. We can go up one direction. We can go down another direction. So in this case, the first measure is going up. And then we'll answer that by going down. And then finish off the whole solo with a nice, very inside the blues box pattern type of thing.